Our sponsors for this episode are Shamrock Car Wash. Shamrock Car Wash has 3 convenient locations in Newton, Wichita, and Mays. They were also voted Best Car Wash in Harvey County for 2024. Shamrock Car Wash offers a traditional hands-on wash bays, but also touts an in-bay touch-free wash and dry for an effortless clean. Make sure to look them up and follow them on Facebook at Shamrock Car Wash. That's Shamrock Car Wash. Or you can visit them online at theshamrockcarwash.com. That's theshamrockcarwash.com. MTO Commercial and Residential Cleaning Services. MTO has been, still is, and will always be a locally owned and operated company. Paula started MTO in 1994 and has been serving Harvey County residents ever since. If you're looking for a one-time clean or a weekly, bi-weekly, or a monthly spruce-up, no need to worry. MTO gives free estimates. Give Paula a call at 316-288-9141. That's 316-288-9141. Absolute Drain. Look. No one, and I mean no one, likes it when their sink, bathtub, washing machine, or especially their toilets start backing up. It's even worse when they won't drain or flush at all. No matter who you are, it happens to us all. If this is happening to you, then you need to give Garth with Absolute Drain a call. Absolute Drain is located at 420 West Broadway in Newton and has been faithfully serving Newton and surrounding areas for longer than I can even remember. I personally use Absolute Drain, and they have kept my pipes cleaned out and flowing day one. It might just be time for you to give them a call too at 316-283-7264. That's 316-283-7264. Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week this week?
I don't know. Parts of it were exhilarating. Parts of it, I just wanted to break down and cry. Having to spend almost $4,000, and probably after taxes, $4,000 on a transmission is what's going to make me want to cry. So
yeah, it's a chunk of change.
It is a chunk of change. It is, and that particular vehicle has sucked up way too much of my money the last 2 years.
Might want to call my brother-in-law and see if he has a van.
Yeah, that goes back to that.
That $4,000 might be in the range of buying a new one.
I'm just gonna. It's
already in process.
He should be done with it in a day or two, and he's gonna give me a 3-year guarantee warranty. So
that's why you pay the good money for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep,
right.
Yep. You get it done right. Yep.
So there you go,
Andy.
Man, I'm blessed, dude.
Blessed and highly favored.
I hope so.
Yeah, I knew somebody that always used to say that every day. I'd say, "How you doing?" I'm blessed and I'm highly favored. It's like, well, speak that into existence.
Yeah, well, and I am in a lot of ways, and it's almost unbelievable. So I'll take whatever comes my way because I've had enough in my life where I don't deserve any of it. So I'm good with what I got, and I'm grateful for the possibilities that's out ahead of us, whether it be challenges or things I have to grow through, because I know somewhere down the road it's going to be a blessing. So at the end of the day, things are good. I run hard, take a lot of risk, put myself out there, as do you guys as well. But the big picture, man, I'm freaking. If I go tomorrow, I've had a good ride.
Yeah. Well, redeem the time.
That's
every day. And speaking of redeeming the time, I just wanted to make sure that I got this out there before too much longer. You'll probably hear it on the program multiple times before the actual event takes place. But I just want everybody to be reminded that May 3rd is the Newton Car Show. That is the people that do that now are CCRT, Community Chaplain Response Team. All the proceeds that come in from that then go back out into other areas that are just loving on people, serving people. Last year it was the So Shine Foundation was one of the people that they gave some monies to, and of course that goes into CCRT as well to be able to do what they do. You can go back not too far on any one of these programs and hear about what CCRT is and who they help and what they do. Look them up online. Okay, but also in conjunction with that car show, I've got to say, there's a cruise night the night before. I think it's been determined at this point, might have covered it last time on the program, that they are going to do kind of a parade / regular cruise night, which is that they will have a parade from about 12th Street, 11th Street, block off the roads. The parade will go down until about the tracks, and then after the railroad tracks, then it'll just filter back into the cruise night. Everybody's going to go down to Midway Motors. Midway Motors here in town. I got to send out a shout out to Matt Hensley, who's the general manager of Midway Motors. They are always accommodating the cruise night, as well as being, if I'm not mistaken, and I got to fact check this, but I do believe they are the #1 sponsor for the car show as well.
I believe I've heard that too.
So
that's really cool.
So yeah, it
fits their business model, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, it does.
Yeah.
But it's just give back to the community. Give back to the community.
win-win.
Give back to the community. Midway Motors, Matt Hensley, thank you for all that you do. Greatly appreciative of all the ways that Midway and Matt and that crew and staff invest in our community. They're everywhere all the time, and we're really appreciative of them. So the next thing then, of course, that I wanted to cover, and I'm going to kick this on over to Chad, because I know Chad will have a little bit more details on that, and obviously, Andy, you can comment as well on that, but our youth accomplishments in Harvey County are at an all-time high. Absolutely at an all-time high. Do you, I don't want to get it wrong, so I was going to pass it over to you, but we've got a 3A girls state basketball champions through Halstead Dragons.
Their first girls championship in history.
And that's coming off of a
basketball, girls basketball.
That's what I was gonna say. That's coming off of a volleyball season.
Yeah, that's
where
huge.
they were the 3A volleyball champions, state champions, Halstead Dragons, obviously. And then from there, we've got the Heston boys, if I'm not mistaken, that are state champion, 3A state championship. And the girls got third for the Heston Swathers. Then you go over to Mound Ridge.
Yeah.
And Mound Ridge, boys, was it? Or was it girls?
Girls.
Okay. 2A state champions.
That's huge.
I mean, that's
Harvey
all
County,
like,
go, baby.
Yeah, and then that's not on top. And this is where I wanted to put it over to you. Okay, the Jag.
We need like a county
Jag K?
basketball complex now.
Yes.
Just continue to support this greatness.
Yes, right in this heart of Newton.
I have dreams. I have
Themian Park.
dreams.
Uh-oh. He has a dream.
Yes, I have a dream. I have
We're gonna get
long
in trouble for
dreamed.
that.
Wait,
I'm sure
it's
we will.
copyrighted.
I have long dreamed of having some Harvey County championships. Things like cross country, golf, track, wrestling, sure, volleyball, even basketball. I think it'd be awesome. Now, some of these sports, basketball specifically, there's some serious limitations on the number of games you can play and all of that, and everybody's already got their mid-season tournaments, and so a county championship probably wouldn't work all that well. But I've dreamt of this for decades for some of these other sports. Man, I tell you, Sand Creek Station, I love you guys. Could you guys figure out a way to do a high school championship for Harvey County? Because you know, there's like almost a dozen school districts,
and that's apples to apples too.
that tax within our county. So invite them all.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
Invite 'em all.
That's interesting. We need to. Somebody needs to call them and ask them to be able to, because that's one of those things. Like, you know, you get into basketball and it's like 5A is 5A for a reason. You have more kids that you can pull from. 6A, you have more kids that you pull from, and then some of these 2A schools, you've got 80% of the kids that could play basketball on the team. So it's not necessarily comparing apples to apples and oranges, but some things like golf, cross country, this type of stuff. I mean, these are things that we could do. Enter Harvey County and just provide something. I mean, I don't know if there'd be a trophy or
and straight up to for the people in Newton who walk around saying we're 5A and yada, get over yourselves. Here's some perspective for you, okay? I went to a 1A high school. Our entire non-conference schedule for basketball was 3A and 4A schools. And we were finishing our seasons with 20 wins. Okay? The whole idea that we're bigger just means you're automatically better is not true. No way, no how, not happening.
play
So,
the numbers
there
game
you
on that
go.
one.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you have, 100 kids coming out for basketball, you're probably going to be on the higher end of that.
Probably.
Depending on there are anomalies
But-
for sure. It doesn't
Yes.
mean it's the rule, but
Yeah.
it's most of the time.
But when you get into and you get into any kind of one-on-one competition, especially, that's apples to apples. It doesn't matter whether you're from Heston. If you're an exceptional golfer, then you can compete against Newton.
Well, and this is the
You know,
part that
I
was
mean-
interesting about
and
what
see,
you said. Those anomalies,
Newton
like
is-
golf that's a individual
Yes.
type of
Yes.
thing. Wrestling
Wrestling.
could be another one of those
Same.
things. It's like, yeah, you practice with more bodies and more people. You have more to select from. But when you get down to the core of those champions,
It's weight versus weight.
I mean, dude, if there's somebody's putting in their time, I mean, good luck.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
Newton boys golf is going over to Heston this year. They're going to play over there, and that's great. But
Your dreams
man,
are already coming to fruition, Chad.
I just think it would be really
Baby
cool.
steps. You put it out there,
Yeah.
though. We put it out there,
Put
so
it
you
in the
never know.
ether. Ether it out there.
I've thrown it out to a couple of different ads over at Bethel for a county track championship, and it
track's
just
another
hasn't
one.
happened.
Yeah.
And they have a cross country course up there, and the same kind of deal.
Did you see Tony Hoops,
I
athletic
did-
director
I
of the year?
Did oh really?
Yeah, so cheers, Tony.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he threw a shout out to Newton and Bethel, by the way.
Very cool.
So yeah.
Well,
you're
we
just
miss
saying.
him. We talked about we
He
get
was
some
great,
real
man.
rock
When you
stars.
said
in
that, I
here.
was thinking, man, if anybody around here would have made that happen,
Tony
Tony would have been the guy to do it.
Yeah.
If he chose to. He's a
it-
busy guy. He's very
this-
laser focused.
The words I got was sounds interesting.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha, Tony.
Yes.
So, Tony and I actually go back further than some people think because, when I met him, I was just kind of looking at him. I'm like, I saw you play high school basketball.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other things that are huge accomplishments for the community, especially here in Newton, is I was reading about the JAG.
K.
The JAG K. There was 3 individuals that competed. I cannot tell you the event, and I apologize. Maybe Chad can. I'm sure he can because Chad is the connoisseur of all things.
But my
local.
brain is mush today. So,
And there's no paper. Where's
Need
your
more
paper,
coffee.
Chad? You always have the paper. I'm looking for that. But okay, so you got 3 of them. All Newton students, railers, got the top 3 slots.
And
Yeah,
it's the first time,
yes.
That's ever happened.
right? Am I
far
right
as
on
I
that?
know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it
That's
was
what
a
was reported to
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
It was a state level scholarship essay contest run by the Kansas Insurance Commissioner,
Okay.
and it was about financial literacy. And Newton finished 1, 2, 3 overall. That means 10 grand in scholarships, and we're going to have one of those 3 got invited to the overall. There's like some kind of an overall championship on top of this. So that particular kid could be going for another 5 grand in scholarships.
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing.
Freaking incredible.
That's amazing. And it's always interesting. Okay, so just for everybody,
And we had another JAG K group, 2 kids, and I'm waiting. I've emailed them both. They haven't responded. Okay, but they won the trade show event out at the Meridian Center. Went up to state, kicked butt there. Now they're headed to nationals.
I mean, this is actually really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
for being in our community, I'm not going to say that this wasn't happening before because I'm sure that it was. All right, accomplishments over the period of time. It's something that comes. We celebrate it and then it goes, and then maybe not in our memory unless it was somebody very, very close to us that was able to accomplish that. But there are so many ways that we're winning in this community, and I've got to say, make sure if you listen to this program and you don't listen to the updates, there's a bi-weekly update with Carly Stavola, who is the communications director for USD 373 that we do now. She does a very good job of celebrating the youth in our community, telling people what's going on. It's just kind of your one stop. And so if you want to send a shout out to people, this is very important, very important. And also, I got to say, be looking for the Kansan updates because those updates have gone so well with Rod Cry, Newton City Commissioner, former Mayor, Sheriff Chad Gay, the Newton Area Chamber of Commerce. That really is taking off, and now we're going to have one with the Kansans. So, Chad,
Sweet.
be ready, Chad. Because since I know you,
highlight updates.
yes, I'm going to ask you all kinds of difficult questions.
And we'll
your
probably see how a
opinion on
lot of them
everything.
intermingle because, some of what he's focusing in on is some of what each one of those groups at some level will focus. And sometimes
Yes.
there's nuances that aren't going to connect, but a lot of times they'll probably be connect and people could start finding which one interests them the most.
Yeah.
Which I really love that opportunity.
Yeah, well,
thank you for doing
A
that.
good example of that would be the Newton Area Chamber of Commerce bi-weekly update that we do. It's the third Thursday. We usually do it the third Monday of the week, so that way they in preparation for the third Thursday, so everybody can come downtown and experience whatever they're doing. They're doing some themed things, and
That's
this time
awesome.
it's Wine Walk. Well, I was talking with Rod doing a Harvey County Commission update, and a Newton City Commission update, and he said that him and the missus bought tickets to go down and do the Wine Walk, and so then they covered it on the Newton Area Chamber of Commerce as well. So,
So would it be fair to say that when there are those energies promoting, that's our big event for the couple weeks, the month,
Yeah.
sometimes that week, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a neat little lead up to get people informed on there's a lot of things to do in Newton. It just depends on what you want to pick.
Yes. Yeah. And where you're plugged in at to know
Yeah.
what's going on
So-
and when.
So plugging in is important.
Plugging in is important. Well, and
I
that's
do wanna-
something that I got on here for us to talk about later is where we get our information from.
Sure. So I do want to.
Chad,
The Kansan. I did see.
I got a question. In 1998,
That's before my time, or at least in the
I love it. I love it.
But no, we talked about sort of youth success, and hopefully we're going to see a little more here. This is what's today? 19th. So next week, because it's been a while since they've won a regional or made that kind of noise. But we got one of the best FIRST robotics teams in the country. People still know who we are when you walk into a FIRST Robotics regional. And Team 935, Railer Robotics, is headed to regionals on the 26th.
what about the Science Olympiad? Not to
So-
leave out the middle schoolers.
Yeah, the Science Olympiad state competition is April 5.
We had kids that did real well there and are going to
Yep.
state competition there too. We are just seeing success after success after success in our community. Momentum is key. Momentum is key. It really is. And I'm hoping that as we move forward and we start having these discussions about what we're going to do financially with the school system in the future, maybe i.e. the next bond issue that we have, that people will see that our kids really need to have the facilities available to them to be able to be successful, because at some point in time that's where it's at. So stop listening to these national things that are going on and start focusing on local. So another thing, we had Alex Carbajal with Remax Realty and Associates, and also that's his business, but just a wonderful man, very community minded. Most people know who Alex is at this stage in the game. He recently had some tenants who suffered a devastating fire. You probably saw the Kansan obviously covered that extensively. We also had an interview with him, just really trying to focus in on our community, helping these individuals who are at this critical moment in time the most in need in our community. And people have come around that. There's a GoFundMe page. We put out a video here a couple days ago with Alex, so if you can go to HCTalk and you can look at that, it's about an 8-minute interview. You gotta love Alex, man. You gotta love Alex. You gotta love how community minded he is, and you gotta love how our community is stepping up to help these people. But I'll just say, if you're listening right now and you think, oh, well, the community's stepping up and to help these people, so everybody else is helping them, I don't need to help them, be a part of it. Be a part of it. And I know you've got something. I mean, Chad, you were there, when the fire was in full force.
I could hear his adrenaline when he was making his video. I could hear it. Your adrenaline.
You heard me trying to recover from the run.
Yeah. But your adrenaline was pumping.
So, but yeah, so I've been doing this for 94. That was my first pro job in journalism. It was 1994. I'm old.
You wear diapers yet?
Yeah.
Heck, I think I was still in diapers.
So I've been doing it for that. I've been doing it for
I was
that
late,
long.
late bloomer,
And it is almost never that I have gotten to a fire at the same time or before the truck. And so that's why the adrenaline was pumping a little bit. And just straight up, I mean, this particular fire happened very close to my home. And when I say very close to my home, that was the night of the lunar eclipse. My wife was watching the lunar eclipse. She would watch for a little bit, and then she'd come inside, and then she'd go back out. I think she was kind of waiting or wanting to see the blood red moon. And I was trying to sleep. And all of a sudden, I heard, "Chad, come here." And I could tell this was not about the eclipse. I was like, what the world's going on? And walked out of my bedroom, started walking towards the front of the house, and she just opened up the front door. I didn't see a blood red moon. I saw an orange glow. So, I immediately. So I just grabbed my phone, threw on a pair of pants, put on a pair of shoes, no socks. Didn't have time for that. And took off trucking. And when I got there, I started the live right away. And you know what? There was a lot of people awake that night. And a lot of people who watched that feed.
Well, that blaze would throw you. I mean, just locally, if there's a house, I mean, it's dark outside, fully engulfed house, I would have woken up to just the light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you know what? There was, and I know there was some, I haven't checked back with the neighbor yet, but there, just from the heat of that fire, there was a little bit of damage done to the neighboring house.
Well, if you didn't have, and send a shout out to our first responders, if we didn't have such a robust fire and EMS squad and law enforcement that are on the ball and people in the community that care about their neighbor in that instance, all of those things have to come together so it doesn't turn out into an all-out catastrophe, because those houses are fairly close together. People underestimate the amount of heat that comes off of that. I mean, things next to it close enough can spontaneously combust because of the heat. It doesn't have
The
to
next door
touch
house
the
was
flame.
smoking.
Yeah.
The side of it.
The siding was smoking.
That's crazy.
And so if they weren't there
And
in the nick of time,
they had to spray it and cool it down so that it wouldn't go up.
and would still have damage. I mean, you're still going to have paint that's melting, and then at some point in time, there's a flash point there. And but speaking of that, you know, if you're just now hearing about it, or I'm sure that's not the case, because I think Chad's video got like 30,000 views. I mean, that's
Yeah, so the fire
everybody
happened
in Newton watched that video, Chad.
The fire happened at about 2 a.m. and I was at 30,000 views by noon.
Yeah,
I watched it twice, but only counted me once.
So
I
I'm
tell
just
ya.
saying, people watched it, and that's just wonderful that they watched it. But just to your point, if you watch that sucker, consider hopping over to the GoFundMe page, because that family lost everything other than their car.
I saw the flames from your video coming out the front, and Lance, I know you did a story and you were able to give him credit and borrowed some of that, but that was intense. That was intense. And for what Alex said, I really wish, this sounds bad, but I'm going to say it. So on Instagram, I watch firefighters that turn off fires like that, and I'm so intrigued by their methods and the different ways they do it. And it would have been really cool to go in there with that hose to shut it down and see if I could do better because I'm like, do this, do that. No, why are you doing that? You should do this. And here I am.
They're like, sit back, Andy, and
professional
let
online Instagram watcher, sideline quarterbacker.
You're an Instagram firefighter, you know? Yeah. Well, you know, that's just atypical of everything in our society today because all you got to do is make a fake Facebook account and say that you're a law professor from KU or the Yale University and get out law advice. And everybody's like, hey, well, their profile says that they're a law professor, so I must listen to what they got to say. I don't need any legal advice from anybody. I'm just going to take my online advice from this individual.
It's kind of like, you know, I was looking at this, about a 97, 98 Ford F-150 on Marketplace, and I'm like, you know, for the money, if I could just drive it for a year or two, I'd be all right. And then I'm like, well, I wonder if YouTube could teach me how to rebuild that engine.
Hey, you know, I got to send a shout out to YouTube here.
Some things are worth paying people to do.
Yeah. Okay, that would be one of them.
I got to send a shout out to one of our sirs, the haircutting company, on this one here because Shannon Reinhardt, who owns that company, I love her to death in every way, shape, or form. Love you, Shannon. You're awesome. I will never cheat on you with another haircutter ever again because when I went and I got my haircut somewhere else, I can still remember it all had to come off. It was so bad. And then from there on out, will never go to anybody else to get my hair cut, period. But I saw just today on her personal feed that she said that she had somebody come and do a checkup on the AC at the haircutting company, and they told me it was going to cost this much money. And so I said, okay, and I paid them. You see how that works? I didn't go and complain about how much they wanted. I didn't say because you know, hey, I mean, I can just go get online and YouTube will teach me.
For Shannon, I don't YouTube how to cut my hair. Probably wouldn't turn out good for the person in my chair.
But you know what?
So this is why you pay professionals.
Well, and I'll tell you, there's no end. I bet you. We ought to do this right now.
I would cut my hair, but it might not be good.
Look up YouTube videos on how to cut your own hair, and I bet you there are a plethora of 100,080 likes to this person that's teaching you how to cut your own hair, and it never works out in reality. But hey, whatever, as long as you can sell it, then, you know, people try. I do got to send a shout out to YouTube, though. The platform in which, if you have a working knowledge of something, right? Like if I'm sitting here and I know how to change brakes, the concept of having to change brake pads and rotors is not finite, right? Because every car is slightly different, but the concept is there. So if you understand a basic concept of how to do something, and then you're looking for, well, what's the difference between this vehicle and this vehicle, you might be able to YouTube that. Or to bake a cake, you know, or to cook a meal. I mean, you know, but hey, truth is stranger than fiction. So speaking of truth being stranger than fiction, and we're talking about things that transpired in our community, I think it was a day or two before this fire, I hear the sirens around my house, just up and down and all around, and I'm like, what in goodness gracious? Oh yeah. It was insane. I'm like, well, first, you know, I'm in my house, I'm thinking they must be like obviously chasing somebody. And this has gone on long enough that I want to go outside and see what in goodness gracious is going on, because it almost sounds like they're just right across the street. So I step out the house, and of course, yes, right across the street over here, there's 4 Newton police officers, 2 sheriff's officers. At this point, a state trooper's coming up, and nothing against, I'm not saying that they did anything wrong, but and I'm exaggerating what transpired. But they came up, you know, and did a donut in the middle of the road, and I'm like, whoa, man, what is going on here, you know? And my neighbor's outside, and I go and I talk to the neighbor, and he tells me, yeah, there's some guy zipping around here on a motorbike. So I titled this Man on the Run.
Now, would it be okay if you had a tranquilizer dart and you were to get him on the way by and let him just boom, and then get him later?
Well, here's this. Okay, once I found out what's going on, okay, this is that real fine line, tightrope you have to walk to be the hero, right? You don't want to be the hero, okay? But I'm sitting there and
coming off the bridge, is coming underneath,
jumping down on top, and then you come to find out, well, that was the wrong person. They weren't looking for that person. Well, then what do? You know, it's like,
oh, you're still riding a motorbike on the sidewalk. You needed to come down anyways.
Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I walk walk the bike path a lot, and there really are a lot of people that ride these electric bikes and these, electric to motor bikes, and there's real. But this guy, he was
smoking.
He was smoking. He was obviously trying to get away from law enforcement. Period. Why? I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to get in trouble. Maybe he didn't want to get told, hey, you can't ride that bike here, because I think that's probably what would have happened. I doubt anybody would have been going to jail and saying, oh, I thought the bike path was...
He was probably libertarian, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no license, whatever. Or maybe he had a reason why he didn't want to be contacted by police that are other than that, but you'd think, hey, somebody would be smarter if you're looking to not be contacted by police because you have some pre-existing condition that you have to get worked out. Something...
Condition.
But
I got a heart condition.
That was good.
And I don't want the cops to know about it.
Well, you guys know what I mean.
Yeah,
right?
we know.
I mean,
No,
if you got
I
some
just-
warrants or,
I look at this whole thing, and quite honestly, I just look at this guy, I'm like, how freaking stupid are you? I mean, seriously. Take your blasted speeding ticket and move on.
Well, and I
then
hope
you're going up and down the blasted bike path. You could have killed somebody.
if they find them, and the kids sometimes, I know it wasn't too late actually.
No, there was a lot of
There
people
could have been
around.
kids out there, and
There
that's
was
the part that
it was
really
a nice
scares
day.
me.
People were on the bike path. People
Families
were
like
out.
to go out there,
Yes.
but if the person who was that person, they're looking for you, and there'll be a ton more grace, in my opinion, if you were to walk in there and say, hey, my bad, rather they come and have to find you. And that's going to be a different story, an uphill battle. So just do the right thing, because our people are very forgiving as long as you take responsibility. You just got to have the talk and get it over with, because sleeping with that, they're going to find you eventually at this point. So I would say turn yourself in, man.
Well, and then, I will argue with you, Andy, on that, okay? Because the only photos that I've seen come out... Oh, yeah, I was going to say that. Well, then, after all of the... After I thought you were getting ready to laugh, you just went down the wrong hole.
I could just see Eddie Hunter with a drone following them.
Well,
they
okay.
got
So speaking of this, okay, we can rest here for a second, because so then I'm sitting there with my door open. Obviously, it seems probably 10, 15 minutes after all this has happened. I don't know if they at this point in time decided we're not going to risk everybody's lives trying to run around and find this guy, because at this point in time it's becoming futile. So two-part thing here. Well, about that time I see him coming down the road. I mean, it's not funny, but I'm like, oh, there's the guy on the white bike. Well, no police were chasing him. So my first thought was, he's got to live somewhere in my neighborhood. Okay, that was the first thing that I thought. Second was, I have cameras all over my house, both inside and out. So I looked at the camera. I'm like, yeah, you really can't tell who that is or anything. No value, right? Just this guy going down. And then I'm looking at these pictures and that they are releasing, and to no fault of anybody, I'm thinking, well, I could tell you about 150 people right now that look like that from behind with no, you can't tell. You can't tell. But it doesn't change the fact that everybody knows somebody else, right? Nobody's solo in this world. Somebody somewhere knows that their buddy or their spouse or their dad or their mom, their cousin or whoever has a little white motorbike that they were excited about, and that's probably who that was. So you're not getting away. Like, to what you guys are saying is just take the time, stop. Yes, I shouldn't be on the bike path. I'm sorry, the bad choices, and you might have gotten away with a warning. You might have gotten away with a ticket. Now
that I think about it, don't turn yourself in, because that evading might not be nice.
Oh no, yeah, we're into felonies now.
It depends on how much danger. Depends on who he put in danger.
Who's filing reports? Who's going to follow through? And how much grace they
So,
choose to
yes,
have if
he-
you get
he can
found,
have
or
an
if you turn
evade.
yourself in. I always
He can
think
have
turning
an
yourself in
evade.
and walking in is probably the best recipe to having it turn out
So-
Well,
better.
I'm not
for
an
yourself.
attorney or a judge, okay, but I put money.
But we're internet attorneys.
Well, I can look this up.
Allegedly.
Google will tell me.
Allegedly.
I'm going to say something politically spicy.
Oh God! No, this is not a show of politics. We don't do politics here, Chad.
We're in Harvey County.
Everything is politics.
It is. You can't get
We're
away
in
from
Harvey
it.
County, dude. They're gonna plea bargain you. So just turn yourself in.
Yeah.
Roger that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Well, it's one of these things where
I
it's like
didn't even fit, but I'm just going to say it anyways.
allegedly they may choose to, but you look at this, okay, and we joke about it, but the seriousness behind it is such that I say this ignorantly, maybe being spot on. I have to go and check out because my OCD will kill me on this. But let's say that an officer was in pursuit of that individual and something happened in the pursuit where somebody was hit by a police officer accidentally or whatever the case may be while they were responding, and all these unintended consequences. Well, technically, I think you can be charged.
yes, you
With
can.
that.
This ain't the first person to go trucking down the bike path.
That's why they just enacted those policies recently about the bike path, because there were issues and people were worried and people were being irresponsible out there, so they had to do something, and then here you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on that. Okay.
Turn yourself
in. Speaking of turning yourself in, I don't know. We talked a while back on the program about a drive-by shooting that had taken place. There was somebody that shot at a house. We chatted, talked about that. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it was. We don't really know what happened. It might have been some internal dispute with the residents that dwelled amongst one another. That it wasn't like a third party that came along and started shooting at somebody's house, indiscriminately or for whatever reason. And I don't know what happened with that. I'm not sure anything did, but I don't know. But now we have something going on again. We had another drive-by shooting in Newton where somebody was driving down the road and
8th
was
and Blaine.
shooting up a vehicle.
Most of the time, it's the same perpetrator. They do it once and they get away with it, and they get a little boisterous, and those kind of people will eventually get caught for something.
Yeah.
So
It sounds like some
I
kid
only
stuff
got-
to me, to be honest. It
Yeah.
sounds like some teenager stuff to me. Probably a small group
Well,
of teenagers.
they're watching
that
90
think-
gangster movies, not realizing the era they're living in.
Yeah, until what happens is by mistake,
They won't last long if they're doing that.
Well, by mistake, see, this goes back to the unintended consequences.
There was a day I had 4 kids in my juvenile intake room for doing pretty much the same thing. They chose to go out into the county and shoot at houses and mailboxes and whatever
Stop
else
signs and all
stop
that,
signs
yeah.
out in the, and I'm not saying that's what happened here, but I remember dealing with those wiseacres, and they all thought it was just a joke.
Yeah.
Sadly,
I honestly, I didn't. I'll be straight. I didn't think twice about sending them to juvie.
Quick story.
You know,
There was some kids doing that out here. Right down this road is where they got pulled over. I got called from my neighbor. Did you hear those gunshots? No, I didn't. Bunch of us around here got in our trucks and grabbed our stuff and went and checking on each other real quick. And we saw the lights out there, out on this road out here. And I'm sure they got in some pretty good trouble. But
Might be
you never
some
know what
kids-
that turns
might be some
into.
kids.
but right now, I'm just thinking. Okay, we talked about the guy on the bike path. We talked about the fire, and now we're talking about the drive-by. Y'all understand that all happened on the same day, and we had a lunar eclipse.
Oh, he's getting mystical. Getting mystical. Okay, so I gotta say this real fast. Okay, this I'm not saying this to have conversation about it or anything, but I must say I gotta send Elon Musk a shout out because speaking of space and stars, there were 2 astronauts that had been stuck in space and they landed back safely on Earth with the help of Musk.
We just lost 5 of our viewers right there.
Yeah. Subscribers are going down. Subscribers are doing
I'm going to buy a Tesla.
All right. Okay. So then I wanted to cover. We may not get to national stuff. There's one national thing I definitely want to cover, but real quick, the Kansas legislature. Most of you know that I do an update with Senator Stephen Owens and Representative Avery Anderson when he can come on and do an update. But right now, the Kansas legislature has passed new election laws, some constitutional amendments. There's a lot going on at our state legislature, and I just want to make sure that people are paying attention. And also pay attention to what information you're reading. It seems to me that, and I'll say this and I'll give credit to the Kansas Reflector to cite them to say that they come up on my feed quite regularly, but I'm a person that believes that there's always a second side of the story. So I read them and I'm like, okay, here's one side of the story. Now I know there's another side of the story, but then it becomes increasingly difficult unless you want to go directly to the source to find out what's happening, because there's no political spin one way or the other to try to demonize anybody along the way. So there's 2 election laws that are getting ready to be passed, I believe. I think they were passed in both the House and the Senate. One is that there's no more 3-day grace period where election takes place, and as long as it's postmarked that you put the mail-in ballot in the mail on election day, that they give up to 3 days for that to work its way through the system to then count your vote. That will be gone. Another one that I'm not really excited about, because I like the idea of ranked choice voting. Are you guys familiar with ranked choice voting?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not.
And yes, I do like it.
We kind of have a hybrid of ranked choice voting, just to give you an idea of the optics. It's not ranked choice voting, but what we do with our city and school board, where you can go in and you can vote for 3, and then the top 3 vote total getters are the ones that then become your elected official. That happens, but that's not really how ranked choice voting works. It's just similar to that, so not to confuse anybody. But ideally, this idea that individuals don't go in and have to pick Democrat or Republican, red or blue, right? This is trying to break the word I'm looking for, the control that it takes place with partisan politics, right? You've got 2 options. That's it, right? So ranked choice voting. Huh?
Chasing the motorbike.
The motorbike, yeah. If you can hear those in the background, we can hear them. I'm sure you can, but oh, who knows what's going on? But with ranked choice voting, you go in and you pick your top 3 candidates. Everybody does, or everybody picks their, like, let's say you have 5 in order. Who you think the best is, who's the second, who's the third, and then of all of the votes that have been cast, whoever got the most votes then becomes the individual to get elected. And it doesn't.
Candidates get credit for being second. They get credit for being third. So, you could have at this table, right? You could have somebody that comes in and marks 1, 2, 3. Andy 1, Lance 2, me 3. And then you could have somebody else come in and mark you 1, me 2, and Andy 3. And then that's all calculated to decide who won the election.
So even though I might have voted for Andy first, I voted for Chad second, and most people voted for Chad second. So then, because Chad got more vote in the mix of it, when all the ballots are casted, it's very possible that my second choice would be the person that won. Not my first, but my second. Better than the third or better than the fourth. So I personally think that's very partisan. I think this goes back and to say negative about it. I have my opinion on it, and I'm entitled to my opinion on it. If you don't like my opinion, then I guess if you think we can't be friends, we can't be friends. But it is what it is. It is what it is.
Chad's I don't want to be their friend anyways.
Oh, Lance, he's getting into the water.
so
hey, go deeper, knee deep.
Don't go deeper.
So Lance, what did our legislature do when it comes to ranked choice voting?
It was not allowed.
Okay. So for what it's worth, because people know that I rail on the legislature a lot, right?
Well, the Democrat Party did it in their primaries, so I'm still trying to figure out how that's going to happen, because I don't know. I'm not this far into it yet.
But I'm just going to say it. I support the legislature in this. While I really do like the idea of ranked choice voting, here's what I don't like about it. It injects complexity and misunderstanding into our elections. And I just don't think there's enough people out there in the population.
Ether, we call them the ether.
Sure. Who are going to adequately understand how it works. I mean, We already have people who do not adequately understand how our
That's
elections
right.
are working.
And we're overcomplicating it even more. More
Right.
formula.
So until we as a population can start to come to grips with some things, we just need to keep it stupid. Or keep it simple.
Yes.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
You know, I just
Yeah.
and it's also why I'm really frustrated over the whole getting rid of the 3-day grace, because it's quite honestly, it does nothing. What's it doing?
Well, they said that there were about
The CIA likes
I'm getting into this. Okay, so there was a tangible amount of people. I think it was a very, very small portion. I'm going to say, and I might be wrong because, like I said, I've saw this happen. I've tried to research what I can research, but there's only so many hours in the day to, before it comes up. But if I'm not mistaken, I know that there was a 2 involved. So it was either 2,000.
It's 2,000 votes in the last election.
Okay, so you got that. Because I was going to say 2,000 or 20,000, but 2,000.
Nah, it's like 2,000.
Yeah.
And the reason I say it does nothing, okay, is that already, because I think I know what the motivation is, but already our in Kansas, our elections are not certified for a week after they occur. So, what's the harm?
Well, and I contend,
What's the harm in giving the post office? And here's the key phrase. What's the harm in giving the post office 3 days to get it delivered?
We should just do it all by email, Chad.
No. There's not going to be any. There's not going to be any fraud there.
Okay.
You'll start getting votes from Zambia.
And one other one
with the promise of money.
One other one that I started reading about too, that I'm not really in favor of. I mean, it's so difficult. And we talked about last week on the program how legislation is written in such a way that you practically have to be an attorney. And one word means something else, then this word might mean that. And will, shalt, thou, shall, can, will. These all mean different legal terminology. So there's some of this, but there was another one where recently, and people will know this about Harvey County, and God, I hope I'm giving accurate information here, that Rick Pifo, who's our Harvey County elections official, but also our clerk, saw an opportunity that there was a grant that was available to apply for to update equipment or to get new equipment or to get equipment. Now, this is during the COVID pandemic, okay? Where this fund came from ultimately was through Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, and that's so everybody will know what I'm talking about here. Okay, so our elections official applied for it, received an upgrade in some of the equipment that we had, which then the taxpayer would not have to pay for. But people were upset about it because they thought that was the Facebook king trying to come in and do some, who knows what conspiracy theory people might have thought about or what they were able to read online from either this blog or that blog or another blog. It doesn't have to be true, it just has to be believed. So all the same, what they did is there was quite a bit of a stink about that. And I believe that the Kansas legislature has now pass a law, or in hopes of passing a law here, because nothing goes into law until a certain day. It's in the process as we wrap up our legislative cycle to prevent any kind of funding coming in or being accessed to pay for anything unless the legislature approves it. So theoretically,
I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to ask some questions.
Oh, man, I told you I didn't want to mislead anybody, Chad.
Nope, I'm just going to ask some questions. Who picks the equipment?
Kansas legislature.
No.
Theoretically.
No. Who picks the election equipment?
Well, your elections official of your specific community.
Correct. So in our case, it's the county clerk.
Yep.
He's the one who selects what equipment is used. And he does that from a list that is generated by the Kansas Election Commission.
Yeah. The legislature ultimately is the one that decides.
Yes, and they certify different pieces of election equipment. So what's it matter where the money comes from?
Oof.
Well, but we live in a society now where everybody seems to think that
but not all of it's not true. Though.
That's true. See, then we're getting into a bag here, aren't we?
I'm just going to put it out there. What difference does it make that Mark Zuckerberg gave the money? He didn't give us any equipment. He just gave us money.
Yeah.
And then we bought the equipment that we wanted to buy from the list of certified equipment.
That was already pre-approved by.
So what does it matter?
But see, this is the thing. What information are people getting it? Where are they getting it? Are they doing their due diligence?
I think the real issue is that, and you've talked about this before. The real issue is that we're not willing, on a personal level, many people are not willing to start asking those secondary questions.
Yeah, and our society's not built for that, right? We're built off of headlines and quick skims, and when you do some of that, even you ever look at a headline and read the article and figure out it has nothing to do with the headline?
Yes, it's happening all the time on social media right now.
It's been happening for 10 years,
Clickbait
right?
out the wazoo.
And a lot of people don't even understand that. And a lot of people will repost something with a comment off of the headline, and they don't even know what they're reading. And some people don't even take the time to click on the person sharing what they shared because it meets something that they feel or they want to say, I show you this because I can't believe you're not seeing this and this is my perspective. That's why they do it, right? Internal conversation. And they share it. And when you look at it and you click on it and you say, what kind of content is this person sharing? And you look at the rest of it, it's a full-on, just ridiculous, no credibility, a bot account that's sharing nothing but hyper-vigilant activist type information over and over and over and over and over again. So it's not even, and because they're not doing it or they don't understand that side of the world, they think, whatever they think, it's media, it's news, I'm going to share it because I want to believe this.
It's all about clicks, likes,
and it is happening on both sides of the aisle, but I do see it a little more on one side than the other, because I do that. I do some home, and I have family members that get upset with me about things, and then I'm looking at what they're sharing and where they're getting their information. I'm going, no wonder why you're where you're at. I'm not even going to try to fight that or comment against it or say anything about it. It's a mess out there. But the second, third order of effects, Chad, is not part of the culture to go to those stages and those levels of research, which is, it just really doesn't take a lot to do that. No. But most people, frankly, don't know to do that.
Well, and they're on to the next thing. Free speech is a wonderful, wonderful thing in our society. Yeah.
Well, that's what the algorithm
and then
wants.
Emotion clouds judgment.
And in that situation, I mean, that's what it is. We're PO'd because the money came from Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, and the algorithm, honestly, the algorithm wants that to happen to you. And the algorithm knows you and what you're looking for and what problems you're having. And it's going to give you data, information, or things that continue to spiral you down, just like it does our teenage kids. We're just adults. We haven't understood that. We're worried about our daughters and what they're getting off of Instagram.
But we're consuming the same poison
100%
at our own level.
But we won't look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many, because I'm in the industry, so I understand these things because I've grown with the industry. So I understand what the algorithms are doing. And it continues to blow me away how we're this far in and people still don't understand it.
Well, and people will manufacture things.
Some people don't want to understand it because that's where they want to live for their own purposes, for their own needs. Believe it or not.
Yeah, and when you're looking at something, and I've really honed in on this, when you're looking at something and you have critical thinking and you're looking at the background, you're looking at the people, and you're looking what's going on, it's quite possible that whatever that is trying to project to you is taking place isn't actually taking place. There's stuff that continues to pop up on my feed, and it's this teacher does something to this student, and you watch it and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that teacher is screaming at that student. And you watch this enough and you realize, well, there's like 15 clips. So where they've staged a classroom is what they've done.
Oh yeah.
And then it's adults that are acting this out in theater, and for views, clicks, and likes. And that's all that matters, is because on the one end, you don't have to be right. You just have to be viewed.
Right. And here's the one that bothers me still to this day. Kids are getting taken out of schools by ICE. There was a report in Chicago. They went all the way through to have an interview with the station that showed up about it, right? Gave a false account on what had happened, look at the cameras. None of that happened. She lied. The school official lied. There's people today that still think that's happening.
Yeah.
And then it causes problems. We're having a little bit of friction in our schools because kids were nervous and frustrated and rightfully so, anxious about some things. And other kids were playing off of that and talking trash, and it caused a little bit of scuffle. But people don't understand the repercussions of these things. And so we've got to try to get it together and realize that if you're not going to do the homework, be careful what you're posting. And people do what they want to do, right? But at this point, some people are beginning to look a little bit silly. And I will say this, I pretty much kept my mouth quiet on that last administration. I was on some humanitarian effort deals, and I was down in Mexico doing what I could. And I have family that was telling me how things were going, and I have maybe a different perspective than a lot of people. And I wasn't posting all this stuff on social media, really. And then now the people that were silent are posting all kinds of stuff right now about what's happened now. And it's like, man, really? It's just interesting to see that shift and that change.
Yeah, it is. I just got to put this in here because I want to say this, but I don't want to miss it before we move on to the next topic. And it's the responsibility. You know, we have for a long time, and I still believe what makes America so exceptional is our constitutional rights, right? The Second Amendment, the First Amendment, all you know, these are the two big ones, right? Including all of our other amendments, right? Right to own property, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The problem that a free society runs into when it comes to these freedoms is that if people do not take personal responsibility with these freedoms, that then they become a detriment. And you can't take them away because of free society. So it's the chicken or the egg. But we live in a society where you can say whatever you want to say. It doesn't have to be true. So if I am exercising my free right of speech, then you as the recipient or the hearer of that, we've talked about this before on the program, are consuming that information, then the responsibility lies with you to be able to say, is this true or not? The only way that this is going to work, that these freedoms are going to continue, is if we self-regulate, right? Your Second Amendment right. The biggest thing that people talk about when it comes to the Second Amendment is they point to all these atrocities that take place with that where the harbinger is the firearm, right? And but the reality is if you take personal responsibility for that, then you're going to decrease the opportunity that that's going to get into the hands of somebody that it shouldn't get into, and therefore have a devastating consequence because of it. So the way we protect our rights and we continue in this freedom is to have a responsible freedom, right? Okay, Kansas legislature, Black Mass. Did you guys hear about the Black Mass that was supposed to take place at the Kansas Kansas state capitol?
I heard the scuttlebutt. It seems to be gone.
It's not gone.
Oh,
it's not gone. What happened was there was an organization that wanted to do a Black Mass, which is a satanic organization, be it what it is. Okay, everybody's got faith. Whether I think it's right, wrong, or indifferent, or in between, I've got mine. I'm entitled to mine. Once again, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. But there was some scuttlebutt around it. A lot of people wanted for that can't happen. That can't happen at our Capitol. That's just wrong and everything else. And so then there was some question about what happened. Well, now the people that were wanting to do that are suing the state of Kansas because they are being prevented from doing it.
Which is what they wanted. And I'm on the side of screw them people, but whatever, you know. Yeah, I know it's a freedom and a right, but I can also say screw them.
Yes, you can, but the legislature can't.
Yeah, well,
and that's
take the lawsuit with your chin up.
That's the deal. I mean, that is the deal.
Yeah. And they won a lawsuit, and these are the silly things that happen because that's what they were trying to accomplish.
And they'll win. This is the thing. They will win. It's similar to invocation at a commission or a city meeting.
Well, let's get a super ultra conservative right wing judge.
Let's just vote them in. Let's wait till we get because
this is the game we're playing too on another level, right? We are playing this game.
Well,
what circuit are they in? What judges are willing to play and put in this thing to hold this up? We'll get to that later, I think.
Yeah. Well, and then you take, for instance, what we talked about in the past too, when it comes to Supreme Court justices and them being elected. and whether or not that's the best representation for interpretation of law. Because, well, if we've got this, let's say this goes to the Kansas Supreme Court, or whatever path it takes, right? And the Kansas Supreme Court says, you cannot bar one faith over another from operating in their faith on public property, right? If you're going to allow for there to be a permit that's pulled from the Catholics for Kansas, and they're going to go in and they're going to have a mass at the state capitol, and we're going to praise it, we're going to love it, we're going to think it's great, we're going to have a prayer, we want to have a non-denominational come together prayer, or pro-life or pro-choice or whatever. You cannot bar one from the other. You can't say because I don't agree with your faith that you're not allowed to participate in the same process and do the same thing that somebody else is doing because I don't agree with your faith. I mean, I'm not a Satanist, guys. I'm not a Satanist.
I hear you.
But I believe that if we want to be a society where people can freely operate, where I can freely operate my faith, that then entitles everybody else to operate in theirs.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
So what happens to this now, okay? If they want to go do a black mass, and I happen to be at the Capitol that day because I got something going on, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk by it, I'm going to pay it no attention, and I'm going to respect their right to do that. Because on another given day, if I want to go up there because there's a faith walk or a moment of silence.
So let's talk about worshiping Satan. What is that? What do you, when you worship Satan, what are you worshiping?
Ultimately self. I'm not a Satanist, but I have studied.
I don't know about it. I just see it as worshiping evil. And I've seen some cults and some things, and I know they're probably the extreme cases because I don't hang out with Satanists. There's stuff with people getting sacrificed, faces of death. You see that cult and that Satanist group that was killing and selling people's organs. And doing all that stuff. And I mean, if those people are amongst them, boy.
But even today, and okay. This is
and I know Dennis Rader had dead bodies in his trunk going to church. I get it, right? And I know Catholic priests have their reputation in some places and parts of the country, and most of them are great humans, but we got some flyers out there, right? And so I get it, but for the most part, it seems to be more accepted in those communities, that type of behavior. In those Satanist type cults, from what I gather.
Yeah, I mean, a culture.
And if someone has a different experience, message me.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't want to be sacrificed. So
I will throw vinegar on you. No.
With a palm branch,
I will have my crosses but when my Bible.
When it comes down to government, we have to be thinking about the fact that if it's good for one, it's good for the other. I made the comment all the way back when the discussion was happening.
I get what you're saying. For me, that's where I draw a line, and I'm good with that. That's what we do. What you do, I'll do what I do.
It'd be better to have a moment of silence before a meeting than to have an invocation, specifically because it opens the door for anybody who wants to invoke anything, any
right.
God,
but a lot of these people
deity.
are just gamers, and it's sad. That's the world we live in, though.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, and we are coming we're getting close to the end. There's two things that I want to cover before we close out, and I think covering Zuckerberg first would be good because we already covered Zuckerberg early in the program in Facebook, but he came out with a statement, and I think this is amazing, and it's mind-blowing to me because I'm of the age group that Atari was the next level, right? And then it became Nintendo, and then it became, PlayStation, and now we're into
Pong.
It's just, I mean, video arcades, right? I mean, we are the generation where we have watched this come full circle. I watched the invention of internet. I've watched the invention of computers now to where we have, these devices in our hands, both good and bad and everything else. But Zuckerberg says we'll be saying goodbye to phones and hello to tech glasses. So in the next decade, his belief is that we as a society will move away from handheld devices to glasses that do the same exact thing. Are we going to see? I mean, and to me, it blew my mind. That's why I wanted to bring it on, was because, let's say I'm halfway through my life, all right, and all this technology that I have watched take place up to this point. What will the next 30 years look like?
So how soon does he think where this is going to happen?
The next 10 years, we will phase out of handheld devices.
Well, they're already training us to do it now. So remember the McDonald's content, the McDonald's thing?
So you're saying that I have roughly half of my life left to use a phone. The last 10 years of my life, I won't be able to.
Not that you won't be able to. Okay, now there was no mandate or anything about that.
He's selling.
What he's saying is
that
moving. We as a society have developed the technology, multiple companies. We had Google Glasses, we've had Apple. So what's happening is these this technology is being perfected and produced in a way that the mass population will be able to afford it as much as they would buy a phone, and that people will just automatically choose this as a better path because, well, you'll have your glasses on, and if you have a message that come up, it'll just blip up on your thing. There's no need to look at a phone. They're taking out one step in the process.
Glasses are about $400 right now, and they'll get a little more expensive as time goes, and as they learn to compound these things. They've been using them for a while. They're pretty amazing, actually. There's different styles. You can get 1080 where screens pop up and you just tell your glasses, and it happens now. Where's the nearest coffee shop if you're in San Francisco? And it'll pull up Google Maps and show you where it's at and say, yep, I want to walk there, and it'll show you a little green dot and walk you right up to it. It's happening now already.
Crazy.
It's what's interesting?
I want my flying car.
well,
they're doing the little hover things.
Yeah. But but this goes back to
promising me a flying car.
All right, you're going to wind up getting something.
Back to the Future messed us up, didn't it?
Well, you're going to wind up getting something, because I guarantee you there is a lot of money still at play when it comes to keeping things the way it is. There's this thing. I think we would be. I still believe that. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I believe that it's quite potential that we do have a better understanding of cancer cells, how cancer manifests, and how to prevent cancer. And because it's such a huge financial, pharmaceutical industry, then, well, would it be financially benefit to do that? Just saying. I'm just saying. Okay, so do you guys have anything to say about technology? I mean, I could stay on technology for a long time.
I mean, it's interesting to me how trends blow people away here that have been in certain areas for 5 to 7 to 8 years, and it's like trickling because those pilot glasses have been out and been used for a while.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Chad, anything on the technology? Does it just blow in your mind left and right?
No.
Chad said he wants a flying car.
I want a flying car.
Get the flying car for Chad.
It's going to intermingle with digital signage, by the way, and AI.
With drones.
And at some point, I need to see the USS Enterprise. I'm just...
Well, you're going to have to start buying a Tesla to support Elon Musk because he's on the verge of the Enterprise.
Everything Gene Roddenberry wrote, I want to see it before I die.
Theoretically.
And so there you go. So Elon and Mark and all you guys, you got to get busy, because I only got about 20 years left.
Yeah, you got to get busy. And especially if you want to see it in your lifetime, fellas. Because if you want to see it in your lifetime, Elon, Mark, all you that are doing this, you better get on it, because you guys are getting older. You're older. All of you are older.
They're in their mid-50s.
All of them are older than me. I'm going to outlive all of them, maybe. We'll see. But then again, when you have...
Mark isn't. Mark's... He's my age.
Yeah, he's a little bit older. Yeah. Okay, so last thing on the program that we'll cover, we've talked about COVID. We've talked about all these bioengineering facilities. We've talked about biowarfare. I almost think it's come to a culmination, because as I was reading, I found, and I don't know if you should be able to Google this and find out, but an illegal Chinese-run biolab was found in California.
Okay, it's not the first one. There have been others that have been found. And why is this one hitting the news all of a sudden now? That's my question. The other ones, you can find it. It's out there. But that's a big deal for it not to have been publicized and been swept under the rug, even with articles saying how they're sweeping it under the rug. If you just go and look at it, this is not the first one. But all of a sudden now, it's a big deal. What's the play? That's where I go with it.
Well, then here goes this podcast.
They're setting the table for something.
What's the play?
the next biohazard
Also,
warfare.
pay attention to where it's being shared and what media outlets are sharing it.
Yeah.
And what their tendencies are. Just pay attention.
Well, and that was on Newsmax. To be fully in disclosure, that's where
And
it
all I'm
came
saying
up on
is
my.
There's algorithms now that you can download to see how many this type of organization or how many this type of organization or how many of these types of organizations that are trying to be here. It's at the point right now where that's what I have to do when I look at something.
VTAI.
And I know where to find it, and I go to that and I look at it and I put it in there, and it will tell me from all the world media stations that it grabs information from. This one, some of them are 90% being shared by the left, or 90% shared by the right. And if it stays there over a matter of weeks, I have an issue with it.
When I say we live in a crazy,
nowadays,
crazy world.
nowadays, this is the stuff I'm talking about, vetting your own content to best of your ability. Nowadays, if it's 90% of the left is sharing this story, or 90% of the right is sharing the story, it tells me a lot about the extremists in that sector of where to watch the conversation and where to play with people and where not to play with people. That brings certain things to me. It's just a filter for myself. I have no bearing on what everybody else does, but I will not get into conversations with certain people. And they also are telling me where they are at by what they approach me with when it comes to those subjects. Just saying, there's a way to check it.
And that's why it's so important. I got to send a shout out to the Kansan and Chad Fry and local journalism, because to be completely honest, through my path and my understanding is I've come to the conclusion. I can't really do, I mean, we talk about some stuff on this program, right? That is national level stuff. But what can I do about a bio lab that was found illegally from China or the Chinese government?
Get
California?
afraid?
Share it. I mean, I can do very little, very, very little about that. What's going on at the federal level. So how much time and energy and effort do I want to put into that versus locally, right? That's why we do this podcast. That's why I subscribe to the Kansan. That's why I try to be on top of these updates and what's going on with our local people, because I can do very little about what's going on at the state legislature, but I can do something about what's going on with my elected officials, and they can try their best. So we're coming to the end program. What do you, guys, I've got an interesting final word I want to say. So which one of you want to go first on your final words?
I'll go.
Andy?
Messaging is important. And there's a lot of messaging going on out there. Actions matter. And I want to tell you that there's a bunch of people that got deported. And that's a big story out there in media, and it's causing people to argue and fight because of these nasty people that are deporting all these people that just want a better life and all this stuff. In my mind, I see the messaging behind it. It was theater. Those planes and those trucks were supposed to be there. That was supposed to be filmed just like it happened. It is signaling to the world that America is closed. I think in the long run, there's a lot of people that have been hurt, that are going to continue to be hurt through the shuffling that just happened. I do stand on one side more than the other, but just pay attention to know that that messaging is there for a reason. And when you got the CBP app that was actually telling people how they could get here and what they should do and giving them information, and a lot of people weren't getting here, and they were getting stopped in other countries and brutalized and made slaves and made to do a lot of crazy, horrific things. I've talked to people. I've been down there. I understand the other side of it too. But America's closed. That's an important message to put out there. Save yourself the heartache to try to get here. We have to fix ourselves before we can help anybody else right now. And there's a lot of people here that will be deported. And people that have criminal records that have been in jail that are here, they should worry. That's my final word.
Chad?
I don't really have much today. I haven't slept for a while. I mean, I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning filming a fire. And, you know, I'm prone to insomnia. And just right now, my sleep patterns have been disrupted for a really long time. So I don't got much of a final word today, other than, you know, spring sports are going to get started, and it's go Railers time.
Yeah.
And it's Railer Pride time.
Yeah.
And I feel like this has been one of the better years for Railer athletics. Even though that football season was really rough, overall, this has been a pretty solid year. So some momentum got built, I think. I think we need to try and figure out a way to carry that into our spring. That means going to baseball games, softball games, a track meet if you can, and put on your black and gold.
Absolutely. My final word is this. You know, I would say one of the main problems that we have in society right now is a breakdown in communication, especially when it comes to talking about policy matters. We know this is politics. So if when it comes to relationship and communication, I just got to say this. If you are someone in my life or in someone else's life who believe that because somebody doesn't think, act, or feel a certain way that you think they should think, act, and feel when it comes to political issues, and communication breaks down, and you can't be a good neighbor or a good friend or a good human being to somebody because you don't agree with their politics, then you got the problem. That's your problem. Have a good week, everybody.
Roger that.